evening, everybody. And welcome to People's Bank Theater. If you're here for the Charlie Daniels concert, you got the wrong night. My name is Johnny Wharff. I'm with WMOA Radio. If you were listening today, you probably had enough of me already, but you've got me for the rest of the night as well. The original People's Bank Theater, or the original theater in Marietta was 1911, which was 8 years before moving pictures. So they were doing vaudeville acts, they were doing magic lantern projections, and they always had a guy that was supposed to keep things rolling, mildly entertain, and to keep things on time. That's my job. You don't remember much from when you were 5 years old, but I do remember my first movie. It was here, and it was the original Jungle Book. And I think it was 1968. Here we are 40-some years later doing a remake of that. I also saw a movie called Ben. My brothers brought me. I think I was way too young for a horror movie, but you remember a movie about a rat? Michael Jackson sang the theme song. He was 14 at the time. But when we left, I was so frightened, and my brothers made me go through that Pioneer Walk. Have you guys been through there? I thought there was going to be 100 rats jump on me that night. And then I also had the privilege of being here for the last showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show. It was the fall of 1985. And after that, and then they closed the place. If you'd have been at one of those shows, you'll know why they closed the place down, because it was pretty crazy. But we are going to have a great time tonight. There's this light-haired girl, and she gets a call from the contractor who's very angry. And the contractor says to her, "It has been a year since I put those new windows in your house, and you haven't paid me." And she said, "You can't fool me, because when you put them in, you said they'd pay for themselves in a year." Some girl sputters into a little repair shop, and she says, "What's wrong with my car?" And the guy gets under the hood and he looks and he says, "Just crap in the carburetor." And she said, "How often do I have to do that?" Get him. This is where that little hook comes out. I like that dress. It remind me of a joke, though. It kind of looked like a mop, which made me think of the dispatcher getting a call about a homicide, and the policeman shows up, and there's a woman standing over her husband, and she has a mop in her hand. And the dispatcher calls the cop on the walkie-talkie and says, "What happened?" "She killed her husband because he walked on the floor before it was dry." And the dispatcher says, "Did you arrest the woman?" He says, "No, sir, just waiting on the floor to dry." Oh boy. The one thing I don't have, I do know a lot of jokes. I don't know any dance. Oh wait a minute, I just thought of a dance joke. Oh, I do know one actually. This guy is trying to get into a dance club, fancy place like you used to go, Scott. And he doesn't have a tie. You can't get in without a tie. He's looking for a tie. They said, "You cannot get in without a tie." He's got, "I got a girl in there, I need a tie." He runs out to his car. He's looking, searching everywhere, and all he can come up with is jumper cables. So he puts them around his neck, and he walks back in. And they're like, "Oh, wait, what's going on?" This is all I got, man. I gotta get in there. Please let me in there. They're like, all right, just don't start anything. They didn't know it, but my wife and I were actually supposed to be a dance team tonight too, but she couldn't be here. She's getting inducted into the Visa Card Hall of Fame at Nordstrom Shoe Store in Easton. Me and the kids are really proud of her. Actually, she just got a new SUV, and I asked her what the gas mileage was like, and she said, "It gets like 3 miles to the gallon." I'm just kidding. She is here, and I'm in trouble. But I had a conversation I love. She's so quick, because I told her, and this is a real research fact, that women during the course of a day speak 30,000 words. Men during the course of the day speak 15,000 words. Okay, it's a known fact. So I tell her that, thinking, how am I going to tell her that? And she said, "That makes perfect sense, because men don't listen and women have to repeat everything." I would have thought my wife would have got that kind of applause tonight. I told you about that, didn't I? I'm a little jealous just to see how fit they are and the stamina and all the work that takes place with dancing. Athletically, for me, I peaked at age 7, and I was a hell of a t-ball player. But Cardinals, we won it all. So I started piano, and I thought I was really good at that, and I was playing, and I would sing all the time, and then my dad comes home one day, and he gives me a clarinet, and I thought, well, he must think I'm good at everything, and then I didn't realize it was to get me to quit singing. Then I didn't want to walk around with a clarinet, so I bagged that, and then went on search of something that I'm really good at, and I'm still looking. One of the things that I do that, my wife knows I'm good at this, but it's in the pitch dark of a morning, when it's early, out of a dead sleep, I can hit that snooze button, bam! I can just get that baby every time. I mean, out of it, boom! If that was an Olympic sport, I'd be all over it. Hey, just a little tip on my latest workout. You guys can steal the idea. I started, like most people, New Year's resolution to get into shape. And so in January, I started with 5-pound potato bags. And I hold them out for a full minute. And then in February, I moved to 10-pound bags. Then, what, you think this is a joke? Then I moved in March to 25-pound bags, and in April 50-pound bags for a full minute. And once I get my confidence up, I'm going to put a potato in each bag. Looking forward to it. And then I'm going to come out here and rip my sleeves off. I've got to share a little story with you. It's one of my favorites because it's poignant and I think it's real. But it's a story about right before a nerve-wracking dance recital. And little Susie is a nervous wreck. She feels a little bit like the spotlight guy trying to follow me. And the teacher says, all right, we got 1 minute, and we got to be out on the dance floor. She says, I want you to let the music inside you. I want you to feel whatever you feel, and you just go out there and be yourself, Susie. And at that point, 30 seconds before going on the stage, Susie goes into a dance like you've never seen. Some stuff a little off the wall, but the teacher says, Susie, I've never seen you dance like this. Where did you learn this? And Susie said, that's the way God dances. And the teacher says, I don't think anybody knows how God dances. She says, they will in about 10 seconds. You probably heard this, but they say television puts 10 pounds on you, but live stage theater just makes you look bald. Glad y'all find that funny. Appreciate the affirmation. Anybody have a hard time finding a parking space? No? I drove around the block like 3 times, and then I just stopped in the middle of the road and put in a park. And I said a little prayer. I said, Lord, just, I've been pretty good. If you find me a spot, I'll start going to church earlier, quit cussing, probably stop. And all of a sudden this spot opens up, and I'm like, never mind, I found one. You know what they did 100 years ago? Poetry recitations. And I've always wanted to be able to stand up here and recite a poem. Do we want to check this off your culture list? Okay. This is more for me than you, so bear with me. 100-year-old poem, you probably know it, Robert Frost, stopping by the woods on a snowy evening, right? Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping by to see his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it's queer to stop without a farmhouse near, across the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to see if there is some mistake. The only other sound is sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. Thank you. Good night, everybody. We're going to check that off the culture list. And I guarantee you there's at least one guy in here saying, not only did she bring me to see these dancers, now I'm listening to some dude do a poetry resuscitation.
Little Nancy's digging a hole in the backyard, and the neighbor looks over the fence and says, "What are you doing?" And she kind of whimpers and says, "Burying my goldfish." And he says, "That's a mighty big hole for a goldfish." And Nancy looks up and says, "Because it's in your lousy cat." I took my wife to Cairo once. Yeah, Cairo, West Virginia, I know. It's too close. It's too close to tell a joke about, right? No, we did. We went there for dinner. I remember the waitress, she was chewing gum, and she came out and said, "Do you want to know what the specials are?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "We have lobster tails for $5. And I said, "Shut the front door. I don't need to know any other specials. Bring me some lobster tails." And she says, "Well, you gotta pay up front because it's the special and they're going kind of quick. How many do you want?" And I said, "Give me 4 of them." And I pulled $20 out, I gave them to her, and she said, "You want your first one now?" And I said, "Bring it on." And she sat down and she said, "Once upon a time, there was a little lobster." Cairo, West Virginia, baby. Then I danced with my wife in the parking lot. All right. No, I just wanted to ask, because I have 2 kids, and all but one of them are boys. First time I said that in front of my daughter, Sailor, she's like... Now she just shakes her head and rolls her eyes like everything else I say, but I'm typically the master of useless knowledge, and I try to find tidbits of information that make me look like a good father, and then I share those with my wife usually. So recently, and this is true, I gave her this information. This is true. A female alligator lays 3,400,000 eggs at one time. The male alligator eats 3,300,000 of those eggs. Her question, of course, is why? And I said, "I don't know, but if he didn't, we'd be up to our asses in alligators, that's for sure." I'll be honest with you, I don't know the difference between hematology and oncology, but I did get a C in biology the second time in college. And I married my homecoming queen, so you can hang your hat on that too, all right? Speaking of marriage, I've been married 28 years, and I was kind of bragging about it a little bit, and this guy says, "Well, I've been married 48 years, and I'm like, "Okay, you always try to get one up, right?" And I said, "Well, I try to learn," so I said, "How do you, keep it going? How do you keep the love alive, man? 48 years is a long time." And he said, "You just gotta do little special things." And I said, "Like what?" And he said, "Well, for the 20th anniversary, I got a trip to Italy. I did a gift certificate to Terry Ann's. But I said, all right, you go that big 25, what are you going to do for the 50th? He says, I'm going to go visit her in Italy. My wife says I can't even teach my daughter Sailor math without being unhealthy. What do you mean I can't teach her math without being unhealthy? And then she caught me. I said, Sailor, the other day, I was just helping her with her math problems, but I said, Billy has 49 pieces of bacon and he eats 35. What does Billy have? And she said, happiness, Dad. Billy has happiness. Yeah, and of course, I high-fived her and my wife walked in, but the other thing, she said, how come Mommy drinks decaf coffee and you always get regular coffee? And I said, honey, if Daddy ever orders decaf coffee, he is being kidnapped and you are to call 911 immediately. They say stretch in my business means talk for a little bit while we get the fire put out back there. So I don't know what to say. I don't have a thing to say. Well, actually, no, I have a story for you. This came to me. There was this guy, Bill, whose ailing father, he moved in with him, and his dad was 100 years old, and Bill moved in with his dad, and he knew it was the final weeks, and he said, his son, you're going to inherit a lot of money, and Bill kind of knew it, but he didn't realize how much money. So he wanted somebody to share it with. So he went out to this singles bar and he met this girl and she took his breath away. And he said, you know, I may not look like much, but in a few days I'm going to be worth about $20 million. And she liked that. For some reason, she went home with him back to Dad's house and met Dad, and he thought this is definitely the one. And lo and behold, 3 days later, she became his stepmother. Okay, listen, that's 400 laughs. Now, when the other 500 of you get it, don't laugh in the middle of something serious, all right? You gotta catch up to it a little bit. Probably not an appropriate time for a blonde joke, is it? I wouldn't. Well, yeah, that's what it says. This blonde girl, I got permission from her first. This blonde girl is driving down the road, flying down the road, okay? And she gets pulled over by this blonde police woman. And she asks for a license. And the lady's digging through her purse. She's like, I don't even know what it looks like. And she said, it's like rectangle, it's got your face on it. And she pulls out like one of those compact mirrors. And she's like, I think this is it. And she hands it to the police woman who looks at it and says, oh, you can go, I didn't know you were a cop. A lot of people don't know it, but Dr. John Fry is famous for removing a 30-pound tusk from a live elephant. He did that. And the hardest thing he said was getting him to spit in that little sink. But he did it. He did it. Real quick, a man goes to a doctor and he says, I got a piece of lettuce in my, yeah. And the doctor's got to do this. And he says, let me take a look. And he looks and he says, oh, I got bad news for you. He says, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You guys. I like wine, but I always want my wife to kind of look at me as a fine bottle of wine, or at least I did until she started locking me in the cellar. There was a guy that saved all his money. He wanted to be buried. He wanted to be the guy that said, you can't take it with you when you go. And he saved it all, and it turned into hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars. And his wife promised him that she would bury him with all the money in the casket. And so when that day came, they had all this money wheeled in there, and then she wrote him a check and she put it in there.
I came down here earlier today just to stand on an empty stage with an empty house so that I had a full appreciation for what it was like when this place is full. And so it was really nice, not quite as nice as it is now, but I thought I was by myself, so I was up here on stage and I was kind of going over some things, and I heard like a sound from row 8 or H or whatever it is out there, and it was dark, so I went down there and there was this dude laying out there, like across 4 chairs. He looked like he'd been in his cups a little bit. And so I said, hey buddy, you might want to get out of here, we got a big show tonight, and where did you come from? And he said, the balcony. So I only, be careful. And I apologize for the glare up there. They asked me if I wanted makeup downstairs, and I'm like, I'm not really a makeup guy, but I should have had him done a little extra face on top so that I'm always looking up and out at the same time. Hoverboard, my wife says, not the best idea you've ever had. And I thought, well, if something goes wrong, at least it won't be hard to find a doctor, right? But like our dancers tonight, I needed a little bit of help, and so I would like to thank my daughter who's in the crowd tonight. Sailor Wharff was my teacher on the hoverboard. How am I doing, honey? Oh, jeez. That is not
I'm really a child of the Slinky era. So they don't make them anymore. Not the real ones, not the real steel metal ones that I liked. But I do know some people that are kind of like Slinkies to me. They're really not worth much of anything at all, but they're still fun to push down the steps and watch them go end over end. So I asked my daughter about this hoverboard, because hoverboards, Xboxes, and fidget spinners, I don't really get it. I just don't get that stuff. I'm like a Slinky, Twister, Jacks, Marbles, and Jarts. Do you remember Jarts? The big pointy end? And so I wanted to do something to impress my daughter right out of the gate. And it's not, I don't dance. I'm a pretty average hoverboarder, but so have you ever seen this bottle flipping? They flip the bottles and they try to land the bottle. It just drives me nuts. They sit around and flip bottles and try to land them, right? And I said I would never do that, but I lied, because when I was down here by myself today, I tried it and I landed it, and I cannot lie about it, because there is no other way that it could end up where it ended up. And I know I'm going to get in trouble because it might be there for the rest of the history of this place, but I got it right out here. And I would only add to my daughter, take that. You've been served. So, probably wouldn't be a very good time for a blonde joke now, would it? Somebody said that if you were blonde before you were bald, that you got a pass, you could tell as many blonde jokes as you want. And I was. And I am. So I will. So there's this light-haired lady. She's on a plane that's going to Sydney, Australia. And she walks up from the coach and she sits in the first class. And the flight attendant says, whoa, you're not allowed to sit up here. She says, I'm blonde, I'm beautiful, I'm going to Sydney, Australia, and I'm sitting right here. So she goes up, and the flight attendant goes up and tells the co-pilot, the co-pilot says, I'll talk to her. He goes out and says, ma'am, we got your ticket right here, and you're actually sitting in economy, seat number 27, and you're not allowed to sit here. She says, I am blonde, I'm beautiful, I'm going to Sydney, Australia, and I'm not leaving this seat. So he goes up and tells the pilot that he might want to radio ahead to Sydney because we have a problem passenger. And he says, did you say she was blonde? He said, yeah. Oh, shoot, my wife's blonde. I speak blonde. Let me go talk to her. So he goes out there and whispers in her ear. She gets up. She goes back into coach, sits down in 27, puts her seatbelt on, and that's that. And the flight attendant and the co-pilot said, what the heck did you say to her? Oh, he said, I just told her that first class wasn't going to Sydney. This guy, completely naked, walks into a psychiatrist's office and he's wrapped in cellophane. And the doctor says, well, don't say a word. Clearly I can see your nuts. And this might be my last year also. Go out to dinner with Kelly Colley next year. We had a little bit better, is everybody looking forward to warmer weather? I went to Vegas last week. We had a convention. Actually, it was earlier this week. That's why I'm a little off. It was not a good decision. I'm not looking forward to warm weather because I got this full leg wrap tattoo of Kim Kardashian, and you want to see it? No, I guarantee you there will be at least one dude on the way home saying, you think he really did that? Last year when it was warmer, I came down right in front of this theater, and there was one of those mimes, and they were doing their famous stuck in a box deal. And so I was the only one that was watching them. And I don't know whether to like laugh at them because they're straight-faced and they're stuck in a box, or like be concerned. So when he finished, I was, number one, relieved that he wasn't really stuck in a box. And then I thought I was playing along, so I like took out a fake dollar bill and put it in the box that was there that said tips. There's this, actually it's a true story I think, but this sweet little old lady, she telephoned the hospital and she said, is there any way that I can find out about a patient? And they said, sure. I mean, just, do you have a name? Do you have a room number? And she said, yeah, it's Norma Finley in room 302. And the lady on the operator said, let me check for you. So they called up to the 3rd floor and the nurse checked the record and she called back and she said, so the blood work came back and Norma Finley's blood work is perfect, so that's good news. And then while I was looking at it, the doctor came in and said that actually Mrs. Finley is going to be discharged on Tuesday. Is this her daughter? And the lady said, no, this is Norma Finley in room 302. They don't tell me crap up here. That was not our hospital. How many people are here with their bride? I mean, how many people are married that are here? That's good. Because I married the perfect lady. She's here somewhere tonight. She's thrifty. I've never had to push an elevator button. She pushes it like 15 times. And I've never had to push it once. And then when she's like the printer, if it's not printing, she'll be like, I don't have any printing paper. Yes, but we have 70 copies of the grocery list. She just print. It's not, I mean, it doesn't bother me. I'm just worried someday if I'm ever like on a ventilator, she'll be like, this isn't working. Just unplug it and plug it. Just unplug it and plug it. Just unplug it and plug it back in. I was kidding about my wife. She is Mrs. Right. I just didn't know she was going to be Mrs. Always Right. But real quickly, 2 kids are in the hospital and they're side by side and they're getting ready to go they're in these beds and they're going to their respective surgeries, and one kid looks over at the other and he says, hey, what are you in here for? He's like, I'm scared to death. It's time I'm getting my tonsils out. The other guy says, the other kid said, you don't need to be afraid of that. And he's like, I did it when I was 4. I mean, they give you ice cream and Jell-O. It's a piece of cake. You'll love it. So what are you here for? He's like, I mean, it's called like a circumcision. And the kid's like, oh. He said, I had that done when I was born. I couldn't walk for a week. Or a year. Maybe it was a year. I prefer to be called Johnny, and that's for a reason. Some people refer to their toilets as Johns. I never liked that. In fact, I call mine the gym, and that way it sounds a lot more impressive when you wake up every morning and the first thing you do is go to the gym. We're raising money for kids, Ronald McDonald House, and it reminds me of a story, the chicken and the pig. The chicken and the pig were hanging out, and the pig says, man, what can we do to raise money for the kids? Is there something we can do to raise money? And the chicken's like, I got a great idea. Why don't we have a bacon and egg breakfast for them? And the pig's like, wait. That's just a contribution for you, dude. It's like a whole commitment for me. The point I'm trying to make is that everybody, if you're sitting in here tonight, all these dancers, Lori Strawler, stagehands, ushers, you're all chickens. I'm really proud to have been asked to do this because I am, as many of you are, of this community, dating back to when there were payphones on the street corner and Kresge's and the little blue-haired lady at Dime Bank that ran the elevator. I loved the days back in the day. And then as it relates to the radio station that I have the grand fortune of being associated with, and a connection that I found in a photograph that is connected to this theater back in early 1950s. It's pretty well documented. There was the premiere of Battle Hymn, and Rock Hudson was here. And not only did they celebrate like we're celebrating tonight, they celebrated the entire week. And I found this photograph from 1952 that is Ray Ulmer, the original man on the street from WMOA. And I couldn't help but think, that's pretty cool, but I couldn't help but think about the boardroom meeting when he said, hey, let's get an elephant. And that's how it turned out. And then where did you get an elephant? Maybe it was easier back then. And then the insurance part of it struck me. And I'm thinking if I can get clearance, maybe I don't want to ruin any surprises, but I think that's pretty cool back in the day. WMOA. So I have 2 kids, and all but one of them are boys. And that one is here tonight. She helps me a lot. That's Sailor. She is, official name is Sailor Frances Alvarez Wharff, out of the Republic de Guatemala, and she goes by Say Dog, is what her friends call her. And had I known when she graced my world that 14 years later she would know everything. And she'll tell you, she knows everything. I would have named her Alexa had I known that. But one of the April Fool's / Easter jokes that my daughter and I do is to color a dozen eggs, and we hard-boil 10 of them, and you can see where the surprise comes in later. But the problem is we did it back on the 1st of April, and we've had these for a couple of weeks, and we might have forgotten to put them in the fridge a couple of times, so they're getting old. And she said, Dad, I got a great idea. Why don't you take the eggs to the Dancing with the Dogs event and then pass them out to the people, and then they can eat them while they're watching it, and I thought that was a great idea. So we brought these. They're really nice. Well, they're pretty. They don't smell nice, but... So anyway, look at those. We did a good job, Say Dog. All right, so I'm going to pass these out to the people. That's a yellow one. Boom, that just happened. Good catch. So anyway, you know why Quasimodo went to the chiropractor? He just had a hunch. That's terrible. Actually, do you know how many chiropractors it takes to screw in a light bulb? 1, but it takes like 8 to 10 visits. I thought about in Sue's bio, she had 5 cats, like 6 months to 16 years or something like that. And I'm a marketing guy, and I thought of a business venture when I saw that little doggy here dancing, and then I thought about our cats. But this would be like a business partnership between a veterinarian and a taxidermist, and they go in business together, and the sign would say, either way, you get your pet back. Oh my gosh, I don't care about that. I thought it was that dog coming out. You know, she reminds me of my wife, because my wife's that way. We went on our honeymoon in the Grand Canyon. It's been a lot of years ago, but I remember we got on, you probably know how this works, but you get on a mule down low and you take it all the way to the top, and her mule, right out the gate, I think his name is like Eli or something like that, it stumbled, and she jumps off, she looks in the eyes, and she's like, that's once, and I'm like, hey. Then it stumbled a second time, and she gets off, and she's like, that's twice, Eli. And then it stumbled a third time, she jumps off, she put her foot behind its little hooves, and she shoved it over the edge. Oh, I know, it's tragic. And I was freaking out. I was like, what are you doing? That's inhumane, I'm gonna go. And she came over and she said, Johnny, that's once. We've gotten along ever since. Furthermore, I couldn't push a donkey over the edge. I can barely get my own ass out of bed. There's never really an appropriate time for a blonde joke, is there? These 2 light-haired girls were walking in the woods, and they're walking in the woods, and they come across these tracks, and they're like arguing, like, what animal made these? They couldn't figure out, like, what animal made these tracks? And so they're arguing back and forth, and then they both got hit by the train. Come on, man, we got dancers up here. We're gonna break somebody's ankle. Crying out loud. Man, those eggs stink. All right, no, this is my wife's favorite joke. And my daughter said, don't you dare tell that up there. And when she first told it, I'll be honest with you, I didn't laugh at it. And she says, Johnny, that's 2. But I'm gonna tell it. So here's the deal. Help a brother out here. These zeros. There's a bunch of zeros, and they're hanging out at this party. It's like a big zero party, right? And they're having a great time, and everything's going well. And all of a sudden, this 8 walks in and takes the air out of the room. Everybody's like, what would an 8 come to a 0 party for? I can't believe that. What's the 8 doing over there? And so now there's mumbling going around, and finally the 8 overhears it several times and says, look, you bunch of pretentious zeros. I wear a belt one time, and this is what You are redeemed, baby.
My wife had told me that I should just go with the dance because it adds years to your life. But then I was looking at how much it costs to be in a rest home. It's like $7,000 a month or something. I'm thinking, quit the dancing and spend the money now. Out of my pot. We'll go from there. But anyway, is everybody glad they're out finally? I got a pretty good sense, I think, over the last couple of years, the people that I really didn't want to see anyway. Present company excluded. I'm glad you're all here. But I'm still working on a couple things. Like, I'm a little wiggy with to register when they do the Stand Here X. And I'm from an older generation, but I watched way too many Roadrunner cartoons to fall for that one. How many think the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band is playing tonight? That's July 21st. I guarantee there's at least one dude saying, damn it, Ruth, you told me. But in all seriousness, I do hear from some guys that maybe get dragged here by their wives. Are there any of those guys out here? Let them know. So let me ask you a question. So if 2 guys, let's just say 2 guys are standing in the woods and nobody's around, are we still wrong? And does anybody get the feeling that their wife might appreciate her cell phone more than they do you? I'm not trying to start anything. My wife is here as well, for now anyway. But to give you an example, we were watching a show the other night, and I said, could you go get me a beer? She promptly said no. Like less than a minute later, the phone rings. It's in the kitchen. She gets up to get it. That's kind of where I'm headed. And when she answered it, I said, hey, while you're in there, could you give me a beer? She did not find it nearly as funny as y'all did, so that's good. I think she thinks that the things that I look up on my phone are less important than maybe what she looks up on her phone. For instance, I told her the other night, I was looking and I said, did you know that on Canary Island, there's no canaries? And she looked at me like, who cares? And then she's like, what are you looking up now? And I said, well, I'm looking up the Virgin Islands. And there's no canaries there either. So, my daughter Sailor's here tonight somewhere as well, unless she saw me dance and said, I'm out. She could have left. But she had a question as well. And this is where I mean well, but we think a little differently. She said, I have to go to school tomorrow and tell the teacher where humans came from. And I'm like, well, I was out back. We were by the fire pit. I might have been drinking a beer. And I said, whoa. There's like these cavemen, and they're slumped over, and they started walking straighter, and a little straighter, and then they built a fire, and made a wheel, and sat down and drank a beer, and that's how we got here. Well, then she asked her mother the same question, and I heard from the other room, oh, we were born in love. God created Adam and Eve, and from this divine creation, we all came to be, and although, Sarah, you are my child, we are all children of God. She said, how come Dad said we came from cavemen? And my wife said, well, that's his side of the family. So that's how that worked out. I did marry Mrs. Wright, Mrs. Always Right, so I want to make that perfectly clear. Honestly, on this curtain thing, they told us they can kill you, so, and my daughter's here. I said, I'd rather have her see me get eaten by a shark than getting killed by a curtain. Oh, Dad. Yeah, the old stage curtain, got him. But, And the chair thing reminded me a little of the advice I gave my son. I wish he was here, John Barry, because I told him it was marriage advice basically, but I just said, marry a short girl, keep your guns on the top shelf. That way you can hear that chair dragging across the floor and do a head start. So good to see young people engaged. I have 2 kids, and all one of them are boys. So my daughter, Sailor Frances Alvarez Wharff, 4 names and a hell of a Gulf swing. She had just a question, and I need to be more considerate, I think, of generations. But these boys she brings home, I said to my wife, and we were in the other room, and I said, you know, the earrings and the tattoos and that funky hair, I mean, don't you think? She said, look, if there was anything wrong with that boy, he wouldn't be serving 300 hours of community service. I do, as much as it sounds like I don't like exercise, I do like exercise. I was riding my bike down by Weber's, and I went in and got a bottle of scotch, and I had this little basket, and put it in there, and I got to thinking, if I wreck, it could break this, so I drank it. And it's a damn good thing I did, because I wrecked like 7 times. But exercise-wise, I do, you know, I don't know if my mom's here, but her dad, he made promise to himself at age 60 that he was going to walk 5 miles every day. He is now 96 and healthy as can be. We just don't know where the hell he is. Does anybody remember the Olympic skier Peekaboo Street? It was like 1998, I think, but this is a true story. I just found it. She went into healthcare. She started as a receptionist at an intensive care unit, but they had to change her position because it kind of wigged people out when she answered the phone. Peekaboo ICU. Thank you all for being here. This is really supporting a great cause, as you know. It's about trying to help when you can. I volunteered once on a 911 call. I was just answering, it was late night, I was answering for them, and a fella had called me. This is true. No, I got a call late night. It was, I said, this is Baba, and my daughter had a she broke her leg real bad, and she can't walk. And I said, that's fine, Baba, I'll tell you what, we'll be right there. I can send the squad out. You just let me know what the address is. He said, we live at 427 Eucalyptus Street. And I said, please spell that. And he said, I'll just drag her down to Oak Street and we'll get you there. So last time I did that, I realized when I was shortening up Dr. Pasquarelli's bio that I took off that she likes exotic food. I was a little leery about that. I had a roommate in college that cooked a Himalayan rabbit stew. I don't know if you've ever had anything like that, but while we're eating it, I said, we're in Athens, Ohio in 1985. Where did you find a Himalayan rabbit? And he said, I found Himalayan in the road. I dated a girl named Kelly Green when I was in college, and she was cross-eyed. Is that what we're doing? Laughing at that? No. But anyway, great girl. We just didn't see eye to eye. Actually, I never did prove it, but I think she was seeing somebody on the side. Goodness.